Preprocessing is probably the most critical part of creating a good model. And because of that, PLS Toolbox and Solo have a large number of different preprocessing methods that are available to work with different types of data. This means that there will be some methods which are more or less useful for the kinds of data you typically work with. So I wanted to demonstrate some of the features of our preprocessing interface which allow you to get at the methods that are most useful to you. So the way we usually access the preprocessing interface is just through the analysis window. And here is the preprocessing for the X block in this case. Right now I have mean centering selected, as shown here on the right. Over on the left is all of the currently available methods. And as you can see, it's a fairly long list. There's lots of different methods in there. Now, one of the simplest ways to manage this list is simply through the sort options. Up here in the top right corner of the available list, I can go through several different views. The default view shows each preprocessing method in a given category. So for instance, we have filtering or normalization methods or centering and scaling methods. And if I click on the sort button once, I now view only one category at a time. So that's one simple way to access just the individual categories. If I click again on the sort button, I get an alphabetical list of all the methods. And so if I know there's a particular method I'm looking for and I know it by name, that's a very quick way to access them. But back to the original view, the other thing about the list is that of course there's lots of methods in here that may or may not be useful. For instance, if you don't ever work with absorbance data, absorbance spectroscopy, the transmission to absorbance method is probably not of much use. For those methods, there's a convenient hide button here down at the bottom of the list. If you click on the hide button, the method you have selected gets moved to a new category called hidden, which by default isn't shown. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to select several other methods here. Oh, for instance, OSC, I won't use that. Variable alignment, not my data doesn't need that. Typically, so, and oh, I don't like the variance standard deviation scaling, so I can hide those. By doing this, I can go through and get rid of the methods that aren't typically used. But if it turns out I do need them, all I need to do is go to the hidden list at the bottom and click on it, and now all of the methods that I have hidden, I can add those in if I need them, or I can unhide them, which simply bumps them back up to the standard list up on top. Another very convenient thing to do, if you have certain methods that you use very frequently, is you can make favorites of them. If I add a method or multiple methods to the selected methods list and then click Favorite, what happens is I'm asked to give it a description as well as a tooltip, which will be a longer description. When I say OK, a new category is started up at the top of the available methods list. This is the Favorites category, and everything that I mark as a favorite gets stuck into that top list. So very quickly I can access, oh, for instance, let's say I'm also going to include autoscale in there, so now I have autoscale added. I'll say favorite, add that, and then over in the other list have autoscale and mean centering both as favorites. The nice thing is this doesn't have to be just individual methods either. It can be, in fact, any combination of methods. So if I remove the autoscale method, and then let's say I'm going to add, oh, how about a filtering method? Let's say I'm going to do a derivative. So I'll go in, choose derivative, add it, and I want to do, oh, let's say a filter width of 21 points and a first order derivative, and I'll say OK. So that gets added. I want to follow that with, let's say, a normalize step. Click on normalize, say add, and sure, I want to do a 1 norm, which is an area under the curve normalization. OK. So those two have now been added. Let me add one more thing to that. I'm going to add my mean centering to the bottom. When I mark favorite for this, I give it a description, a tooltip again, and the exact preprocessing that I chose here is added. So now, if I remove these methods, I can very easily add my combination preprocessing all at once. Another convenient way to deal with this kind of favorite is actually through the option in the preprocess item. If I right-click the P and go under preprocessing, I can also say set the current as the default, and that way whatever I currently have set will always be used anytime the analysis window is started. I hope these options make it easier for you to figure out what preprocessing you want, which ones you use regularly, and make your model building even that much faster and more effective.